7 cars, all of them selling for less than the down payment on something new. And the people who could actually afford to buy smart, buyers over 40 with credit scores that would make a dealer smile, keep walking straight past every single one. That's not stubbornness. It's a blind spot, and it's costing them thousands over the life of a vehicle. This isn't a nostalgia piece. It's built on mileage records, junkyard patterns, and mechanic testimony that keeps saying the same uncomfortable thing. Cheap and disposable are not the same word. Let's start with the car that gets dismissed the fastest. Number 7. Honda Civic, 1996 to 2000. Small. Plain. The kind of car a 22-year-old drives because it's what they can afford, not what they want. That reputation alone is enough to make most adults over 40 scroll past a listing without reading the details. Which is exactly the problem, because the details are where this car quietly wins. Pull any regional state inspection dataset tracking vehicles that cross 300,000 miles, and this generation of Civic shows up again and again, disproportionately, next to trucks twice its price. Not by accident. The engine, D-Series in base trims, early B-Series in the sportier ones, was built with almost nothing to fail. No turbo lag to babysit. No direct injection carbon buildup creeping in by year 8. Just a simple, over-square 4-cylinder that a mechanic with a weekend and a basic socket set can keep alive almost indefinitely. They're the used car lot outside Columbus, Ohio, where the owner has a standing rule nobody questions anymore. Any clean Civic from this window, he buys on site. No haggling. Doesn't bother photographing half of them for the website. They're gone by the time he'd get around to it. Ask him why, and the answer's blunt. These don't come back in for engine work. Ever. The real weakness isn't under the hood at all. It's rust, rear wheel wells, rocker panels, anywhere road salt sits through a decade of Midwest winters. Which means the drivetrain, more often than not, quietly outlives the sheet metal wrapped around it. Buyers who figured that out don't shop locally anymore. They hunt Georgia and Arizona listings specifically, sometimes driving 5 or 6 hours just to grab a rust-free example before somebody faster gets there first. One car down. And here's the part that should make this list uncomfortable for anyone still cross-shopping strictly on badge and body style. The next entry isn't just reliable. Consumer data has treated it for years as something closer to a reliability floor, the number almost nothing else manages to fall below. Number 6. Toyota Corolla, 1993 to 2002. Consumer Reports has quoted this generation for years, not as a highlight, more as a baseline everything else gets measured against. Insurance data backs it up too. Fewer breakdown claims per 1,000 vehicles than almost anything else sold in that window. Nothing exotic under the hood. That's the point. The 7A fee, later the 1ZZ fee, asked for oil changes and a timing belt every 100,000 miles or so. No turbo, no direct injection carbon buildup creeping in by year 8. A Phoenix mechanic who's run the same shop since the late 90s said it almost like a complaint once. These Corollas come in maybe twice a year, and it's always scheduled maintenance, never a breakdown. Business is better 2 blocks over, where the German imports live. So why does a clean one sit at $4,500 while a 5-year-old crossover with a flickering screen sells in a weekend? Beige paint, cloth seats. It photographs like a rental car, and buyers over 40 skip it without a second look, which is exactly what's kept resale values artificially low on one of the most statistically dependable cars ever mass-produced. Number 5. Volvo 240, 1988 to 1993. Here the list stops being about quiet reliability and gets genuinely strange. Swedish engineers obsessed with crash safety in the mid-80s seem to have overbuilt the mechanicals almost by accident, right alongside it. There's a documented case, photos included, local news covered it at the time, of a 240 wagon working a Wyoming ranch that crossed 1 million miles on its original short block. One rebuild, decades apart. The B230 engine underneath earned a reputation among independent mechanics as close to unkillable, provided someone actually changed the oil. Which raises the obvious question. If it's that dependable, why does a clean one sell for less than a used lawn tractor? Look at it. Right angles everywhere. a dashboard that looks drawn with a ruler. Zero curb appeal to anyone raised on curved LED headlights and tablet-sized screens. The safety cage that made this car famous in 1987 just reads as old now. Midwest junkyards still pull running B230s out of 240s totaled by rust, not mechanical failure. A detail that should be reshaping this segment of the used market. It isn't. Not yet. The next car didn't survive quietly like this one. It survived a reputation people actively hated when it was new, and that contradiction only gets more interesting from here. Number 4. Ford Crown Victoria Mercury Grand Marquis, 1992 to 2011. Taxi companies didn't choose the Panther platform because it was exciting. They chose it because it refused to die under conditions that would have killed almost anything else. 12-hour shifts, potholes, drivers who never once checked tire pressure. New York alone ran these things past 300,000 miles as standard fleet policy for over a decade. Not the exception, the expectation. Body-on-frame construction, a rear-wheel drive layout borrowed, almost unchanged from the 80s, a 4.6-liter V8 that mechanics genuinely struggle to break unless someone skips oil changes for years straight. There's a reason ex-police interceptors flood auction sites right now for under $3,000. Engines still tight, transmissions untouched. Departments don't retire them for mechanical failure. They retire them on mileage policy, sometimes with plenty of life left in the drivetrain. A used fleet dealer in Texas mentioned once that he sold interceptors with 250,000 miles that outran newer trade-ins brought in for comparison. So why does a 45-year-old walk right past one a used lot? Easy answer, it looks like a government car. Boxy. Vinyl seats in the base trims. Zero status attached to owning one, which is precisely the reason clean examples sit criminally underpriced while buyers chase something German with a check engine light already blinking. Number 3. Pontiac Aztek, 2001 to 2005. Here's where the pattern gets uncomfortable, because this one wasn't ignored. It was actively mocked. Automotive press in the early 2000s called it one of the ugliest vehicles ever mass-produced, and for a while that reputation basically ended the conversation before it started. Except somewhere underneath that widely ridiculed body panel design sat GM's 3400 V6 and a chassis borrowed from the same minivan platform responsible for some of the most dependable family vehicles of that decade. Simple architecture, predictable failure points that any independent shop could diagnose blind. Nothing exotic to go wrong. A strange thing happened once the show Breaking Bad put one on screen for 5 seasons straight. Resale interest crept upward, slowly, mostly among buyers who actually researched the drivetrain instead of judging the styling. Owners who kept their report 6-figure mileage without major engine work, which contradicts almost everything the design got mocked for back in 2001. None of that erased the reputation, though. Buyers over 40 remember exactly how badly this thing got dragged in car magazines 2 decades ago, and that memory still overrides the mechanical case sitting right in front of them. Which means clean Azteks under $4,000 keep showing up, mechanically sound, cosmetically judged before anyone even opens the hood. But the next car flips that formula entirely, because this one wasn't hated. It was simply forgotten, and forgetting turned out to be its best protection. Number 2. Buick LeSabre, 1992 to 1999. Ask a GM sedan mechanic which car they'd trust their own mother to drive cross-country with zero backup plan, and this one comes up more than almost anything else in the brand's history. Nobody under 40 has ever considered buying one. It's practically a running joke in used car circles. The 3800 Series 2 V6 under the hood earned near folklore status among independent shops. Pushrod design, no timing belt, a fuel system simple enough that most electrical issues trace back to corroded grounds, not the engine itself. JD. Power data from the era consistently ranked it near the top of full-size sedans, and that ranking held for years after production ended. Here's the part that stings a little. Retirement communities in Florida and Arizona are still full of these. Some with under 60,000 miles, driven twice a week to church for 2 decades before being sold off by an estate. Buyers who know what they're looking at specifically target those sales. Low mileage, mechanically untouched, priced like nobody wants it because visually nobody does. Number 1. Lincoln Town Car, 1990 to 1997. The last car isn't just reliable. It's the one livery drivers and funeral homes quietly kept ordering for decades after everyone assumed the model was irrelevant. There's a specific reason for that loyalty. The 4.6-liter modular V8. Once early production issues from 1991 got sorted, became something close to a workhorse standard across the livery industry. Fleet operators tracked cost per mile obsessively, and this platform consistently posted lower long-term maintenance costs than anything comparable at the time. Body-on-frame, rear-wheel drive, suspension tuned for comfort that happened to also be mechanically forgiving. A Chicago limo company owner mentioned once, almost offhand, that he still ran 2 town cars with over 400,000 miles apiece, original transmissions intact. Not restored, just driven and serviced on schedule. None of that changes how it looks parked next to anything built after 2010. Vinyl roof, hood ornament, proportions built for an era that valued presence over efficiency. Exactly why it sits ignored at auction while buyers chase something half as dependable with a subscription-based heated seat. 7 cars, one thread underneath all of them. The industry spent decades optimizing for showroom appeal, and durability quietly lost ground in that trade. These cars are the proof, still parked in driveways and used lots, still running. If this changed how you'll look at your next used car search, that's worth sitting with. And if breakdowns built on real data are useful to you, sticking around for the next one makes sense.